Hello guys, welcome back to a new video, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to rehaul your Trick or Treat Studios Halloween Ends Michael Myers mask. Alright, so this is a stock mask that I did end up rehauling, but it isn't like an actual rehaul. All I did was a black wash with acrylic paint and went over with some browning, but it didn't really turn out the way I wanted it. Looks a little too brown on this side, so I'm going to be doing complete repaint from white to more detailed version compared to the stock version, or how this looks. So this is how the stock version would look, but this one just has a lot more grime to it and a little bit more mold that I will be removing, and we'll go step by step on the rehaul. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove the mold. Now what I did for when I rehauled it was just use some super glue, so it's probably gonna stay on here a lot more than what it does on the stock version. I recommend using sandpaper and getting the mold a little wet. It helps with it, but I currently do not have sandpaper with me, so we're just gonna have to hand pick it. And this is very time consuming if your mask has a lot of mold and it's on there pretty good, but I'll get back to you when I get it all off. Alright, so I just got back from finally getting the majority of the mold off. What I ended up using was one of those pumpkin carving things that you get in those like pumpkin carving kits, and I just scraped it all over the mask for like about 30 minutes and got most of it off. You can still see some spots on where it's left. You can barely see it on camera, but in person it's pretty much there. And then you can mainly see it right there. It was really hard to get off. Right there. And then if you're wondering why it looks wet, just now I rinsed it over with water with a towel, and I just rubbed aggressively all over the mask, which kind of gave it a more realistic look right here along there. It looks pretty cool, but that's not how we're gonna do it. We're gonna completely repaint this, but there's no more mold right there. There's a little bit on the ear too. That was another hard spot, but I went over again with a dry towel, and that also kind of removed some of the paint too, which is what we want, because we want as much as a base coat as possible, because I don't have a Dremel, so I can't peel off the paint, stock paint, so I'm just gonna have to paint over this, but this is a pretty good base. And the first step we are going to do is add a good layer of white paint. Now you're gonna want to dry brush this over. It gives it a better result, because I did it last time and I went fully, like I just went into it, but when I dry brush it on another one, the details on both sides of the mask turned out way better. But we'll get to where I start doing the painting on that. Alright, so we got our paint loaded right here. Here's the mask, and we're just gonna grab a brush and make it so there's kind of just not barely any paint, but just enough so it doesn't get all those beautiful details. Alright, so let's see if I can get a good angle. Alright, so we're gonna try that out. As you can see, it doesn't really look too good right now, but trust me, when you do it like this, it turns out way better. You can see how it's starting to dab it in there. But you want to get it to look like it's just... You do kind of want to get it in there in spots so it's not just caked in its base coat. And you just kind of want to keep doing this around burn sign like that, and then I'll show you guys how to do it on this side. Alright, so this is how it looked after our first base cover, whatever you call it. Forgot what it's called, but the first coat of the white on the burn side. Now you can see I forgot to kind of dab it in a lot with one of the brushes, which you can see it kind of cover that. You see how it didn't really show that much of the good details, which kind of makes it look weird, but trust me, it's going to turn out really good. But if you just dab it in like I did, take your time and just go over all these details, you can just see how much details are in this beautiful mask. So you can see I did it all along to the forehead cracks. I did only where the burns recede to this side of the mask, and what you're gonna want to do to this mask is the same thing, but you're only gonna want to worry about doing it mainly on where the cracks are, but you can just go straight up full white on spots that don't have any details. So I'll show you how that looks when I'm done doing that. Alright, so the first coat on the non-burn side is done. Now we're gonna obviously go back with a few more coats just to get some more spots that aren't really too detailed. But as you can see, this definitely brings out more of those details. And now you're probably like, why are you doing all this if we're just gonna cover over the mask coat entirely? Well, it's because the spring, if we do this process, it's gonna show up the details way better than if we just did the entire thing white. But as you can see, there's nice cheek cracks, and then the bullet wound doesn't really have too much cracks except for right there and then kind of right there. But you can see where the hairline glue line is, and then that burn along there. And you can also see where the paint picked up just like ragged bumps that you don't just see in plain sight. And then same with like those like bumps and indents, and then like more forehead cracks there, and then that little spot. And let's call it all the way around. And I'll get back to you guys when I do the second base coat on both sides. Alright guys, so this is the second base coat, or coat, for the white dry brushing. As you can see, it's finished all the way around the mask, and still kept a lot of those details. Now we're going to go over for a third one. It's going to cover them up a little more, but it's going to be worth it at the end. There's this side with the second coat. At the front, and then, like I said, I did it all the way around the mask, so I don't really go too in detail on the top since you're not really going to see it, but just to get an idea of what it is going to look like. Alright guys, this is how it looks after our third and final coat of the white. So you can see, did it all the way around, and your beautiful cracks right there just stand out that we did it that way, because if we just straight up went over it, you wouldn't be able to see them that visible. And when we do it like this, they're gonna show up much better when we do the washes. But you can see where the mold used to be on it. Cotton. Here's the ear. Oh my god, it just got super saturated. But yeah, that's how it looks on this side. I didn't really focus too much on the back of the mask. You can see it's still pretty bland. But now as we move it to the burned / moldy side, get it so it doesn't look like it's blinding. But as you can see when you do that, you can see that you can still really see those beautiful details. Then when we go over them with these washes, it's gonna just make the mask stand out really good. And then we're gonna put greens all around like where the mold is, and we're gonna put reds around like the eye and the hairline. But that's what the final base coat of the white turned out. So for the paint, we're just gonna use some apple barrel jet black paint. This is very cheap paint, and we're just gonna put it in a bottle like that. That seems pretty good. And then you're gonna want to put a little bit of water in there, not a lot, because the mask it doesn't affect the mask, it's just very, very messy. So when you add just a little bit, alright, that should be good. Alright, so now we're just gonna grab a brush. And here, grab your watered down paint. And this is how it's gonna look. I think I did do a little too much, but that is okay. So let's get straight into it. We'll just do a little bit right there to show you what it is. But it's like, just gonna kind of rub it around. And just kind of dab away with the paper towel or toilet paper. Alright, so we finished the black wash. Yeah. So you're just gonna want to dab away pretty quick, because as you can see, I wasn't quick enough, so it kind of left spots. So the mask is kind of a, wait, back up a bit. It's kind of more of a dark gray in some spots. Now I'd recommend, if you do have it, to use Plasti Dip and spray it over it a few times before you do the wash, because let's see if we can get it on here, because the paint begins to chip or peel to reveal the original color. I think I covered it right there with that paint. But if it gets too dark, I would just dry brush over with some white paint again, but I guess it's looking okay for now. I don't know why my camera's so big. But now we're gonna add the brownish green orange wash that is on the mask. I might do a darker brown if it's too light or if it looks weird. So do the same thing that we did with the black wash with this. Alright, so here it is after the brown wash. Now it did make it look a little better, but it's still pretty disappointing compared to my other Rehauls. But since there was so much brown, I went back with the white around some spots, as you can see. So it also does bring out those cracks, but you can see the side looks pretty okay. this time, and then we're gonna add some green. And then that makes it pop, and then we're gonna add the kind of reddish brown, a little bit around there, around the hairline. And then we'll add the mold, and then hopefully this thing will be done. Alright guys, so this is how it looks after adding the green, the black mold, and that kind of red blood around here on the whole room. Alright guys, so it's been a few days since I was last filming, and so here's what your dried result's going to look like for the paint job. But now we're going to apply the mold. All you're going to need is just a glue gun and some cotton balls. So we'll get into how to do that right now. So what you want to do is you're going to grab your glue gun and just lightly go around where you want the mold, and just kind of lightly just put it on where you want it, and then kind of just rub it out like that. They're gonna want to grab your cotton ball. Now I forgot to rip it, kind of tear it apart, but you're just gonna want to put all the excess you have on that one spot right onto it. Let that sit for a second, and you're just gonna want to do this all the way around the mask. So as you see, we'll do it somewhere around the little burns right here, and then we'll just rip off a little chunk, and you just want to kind of shove it in. Same thing kind of all around the mask. Grab more of your cotton, dab it in there, just put it on like that, all the way around. Now I'm going to do this off camera, but I'll put it all over spots where there's mold in the movie, such as right here, up and around here, and then some spots around the neck and the ear. So this is how it looks after you apply the mold. Now this is not how you're going to want to keep it. This is just like after you glue it in place, you're going to want to let it sit for a few minutes so it dries all the way around, and then so it just settles in. And then after a few minutes, you're just going to want to slowly pick away at it. Now this can take some time to get it to look like how you want it to, but just slowly pick away all that excess, and slowly but surely it'll start to look like real mold. I'll get back to you when I get all of it off. Alright guys, so here's the final result. This is how it looks when you pick off the mold. Now when you do, and there's just like some little remnants, you're going to want to kind of like just slick it back in spots. As you see on that hairline, it just kind of looks like it's growing out. And then when you're doing the glue gun, like just ever so slightly, just kind of make it look like strings, like webbing effect, which turned out really cool on the ear. And you see, it just makes it look like spider webs and mold and just disgustingness. But that's optional. You don't really have to do that. But once you pick off the majority of the mold, just kind of like blend it in with your fingers, and then you can also go over with some gray and black paint and green paint to like kind of blend it in, make it look more gross. That's another pretty optional thing. Now I'm not messing with the hair because in the hero version there isn't really that much mold on the hair, and same with on the mask. You do not want to go heavy. You just kind of want to make it kind of look like there's barely any mold. And then here's the non-moldy / burn side. I put some right there in that temple area and kind of sheeted it back into the hair. There's the bullet wound. I think after I haven't seen it for a few days, I think it actually is a pretty decent rehaul for a budget tutorial. Yes, I'm posting this as a budget tutorial because all the stuff I used for my other rehaul mask costed a lot more, and the finished product was insane looking. Like, it just looked beautiful because I used shoe polish, plasti dip, and I singed the hair and stuff, and I used stuff that I didn't use on this one, which kind of gave it that different effect. So it doesn't really look as good as if you do a high budget one, but I will definitely be doing a high budget rehaul video soon to show you guys how to rehaul it with the supplies I use for my other rehauls that I have listed on eBay that look way more screen accurate to the movie. But with that being said, I hope this was useful. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.